Hello. Today, today we start our subject software engineering. Software engineering, in that the first topic is a software engineering and models. Okay. Basically, what is mean by software? Software is nothing but it is a set of programs or it is a instructions. Uh, in program, there is a set of instructions to complete a specific task, and software is nothing but a collection of different programs which interact with each other and complete a particular task. This is known as a software. Okay, there is a different types of software. So first of all, we see what is mean by software engineering. Okay, in technical terms, we define the software engineering as a systematic, disciplined, quantifiable approach to develop, to operate, and to maintain a software. Okay, again I repeat, software engineering is an systematic, disciplined, quantifiable approach to develop, operate, and maintain a सॉफ्टवेयर. ओके, हर एक सॉफ्टवेयर बनाने के लिए जो भी सिस्टमेटिक वे है, डिसिप्लिन है, और क्वांटिटी मेंटेन करने के लिए जो भी अप्रोच है जिससे हम सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलप करते हैं, उसको ऑपरेट करते हैं और उसको हम मेंटेन करते हैं, उसी सिस्टमेटिक अप्रोच, डिसिप्लिन को हम सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियरिंग बोलते हैं. ओके, क्लियर व्हाट इज मीन बाय सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियरिंग. ओके, why software engineering is important? Why is it important? Suppose I tell you to build a small wall, it, then you would be able to do this because it is a common sense. To build a wall, it requires a basic material like bricks, cement, etc. Okay, and you will be able to build the wall because it is a simple thing. By observing it, you can build it. But when I tell you to build a large and multi-storied building, what will happen? Okay, so it is very difficult to extend your idea about small wall construction to a multi-stored building construction. It is difficult. Okay, because small wall is just by using our common sense we can build it, but by building a multi-story building, it requires a systematic planning, analysis of requirements, knowledge of civil, knowledge of agriculture, and current engineering principles. So it is difficult to build a multi-story building. Okay, without using, similarly in software, uh, without software engineering principles, it would be difficult to develop a large programs. When we build a small programs or we write a small programs, it is easy. But when we build large applications or large softwares, then it is difficult to develop. So without software engineering, it is a difficult task. But by using software engineering, we can build a large application or large softwares. Okay, so software engineering principles uses two important techniques to reduce the problem complexity and reduce the problem complexity, and which guide us to how to build, how to construct the software. Okay, so that's why software engineering is very important. Okay, now the next part is phases in the software development. When building a house, the builder does not start with peeling up the bricks. First, he understands the requirements and possibilities of the client. Then taking that possibilities and requirement into account, he can uh, uh, account he can architect these factors into consideration. Means when designing the house, he take all the requirements and possibilities of that client into consideration, and then he build the house architecture, how that house is constructed. Okay. Similarly, when building a software, first the problem is to be solved is analyze. Means जब भी हम सॉफ्टवेयर बनाते हैं तब उसमें फर्स्ट स्टेप है कि एक्चुअली प्रॉब्लम क्या है उसको एनालाइज करना है, फिर उसके बाद एक्चुअली उसके रिक्वायरमेंट्स क्या है ये एनालाइज करना इम्पोर्टेंट है. Okay, the requirements are described in a very exact way. Then designing is made. After analyzing and clarifying the requirements, the next step in the software development is a design. Then design is made based on these requirements. Finally, the construction process means actual the programming or the solution to the problem is created. So in software, in every software development, there is a basic steps. First, understand the problem. What is the exact problem? Okay. Then for solving this problem, what is the requirements are needed to solve these problems. Okay. Then requirement specification means whatever the requirements to solve this problem, what are the requirements to specify that requirements. Okay. Then implement whatever the collection, whatever the information is collected, that information is analyzed and according to uh, uh, requirement of customer, the proper design of the software is developed. And after design, there is a actual implementation of the coding or of the program. And then that constructed or coding of that program is tested. And finally, that application or that program is deployed at the client side. And after deploying that software client side, then the maintenance, whatever the customers requirements are there, then that requirements are fulfilled after uploading or after deploying that software at the customer side. Okay. So these, so basic phases. First phase is a requirement phase. In requirement phase, first phase, after before writing or before constructing a software, the first phase is a requirement gathering or requirement phase. Requirements, this is where every software project starts. Whenever we start developing software, the first phase is a requirement phase. Okay. For requirements, define what the software is supposed to do. मीन्स सॉफ्टवेयर जो है, हम जो बनाने वाले सॉफ्टवेयर है वो एक्चुअली उसका पर्पस क्या है, किस लिए हम बना रहे हैं. ओके. द सॉफ्टवेयर रिक्वायरमेंट सर्व एज द बेसिस फॉर ऑल द फ्यूचर डिजाइन, coding and testing that will be done on the project. Okay. Requirement start out as high level common statement about the software functionality, software requirements. The requirements means what is the exact requirement of that customer or client is clarified at in first stage of require in first phase, requirement phase. This is the first or step in every software development. In short, system analysts describe user requirements, project objective means software objective, system and resource limitations. Okay. Then next phase is a design phase. Okay. This design, system design is the most system design is a most important and challenging phase of the system development. In requirement phase and in requirement phase, analysis and requirement gathering is done logically. Okay. And the system design phase is used to design the physical model of the system or software. In this phase, the designer or the analyst designs the what is the exact output of the system, what is the input, what is the files, and what processing actually done. Means output design means what should be the format for presenting the result obtained, whatever the result of this software, how should it display on screen, or the what is the format of that output, that is design in output. Okay. Input design phase, which is a part of system design, the system analyst has to design what input are required for the systems and prepare input format to have input to the system file. File deals with how the data has to stored on physical device. Files content whatever the data stored on computer system, the format of data stored on physical devices, that is maintained in file. Okay. Now the next phase is implementation phase. During implementation, the components built during development are put into operational use, and the following activities are done in system implementation or software implementation phase. First phase is a writing, testing, debugging, and documenting the programs. Converting data from old to the new system, giving training to the users about how to operate on the system. Then the next step is ordering and installing any new hardware, developing operating procedures for the computer center staff, and maintains a procedure to repair and enhance. Means if there is any changes in the system, then how that changes is implemented, that procedure is maintained, and complete documentation of the system. So this is these steps are performed in implementation phase. What is actually done in implementation phase? Writing code, testing, debugging, and documenting the programs. Then if there is any old computer system, then that old computer system is translated into new system, the proper training to the user about how the system is handled. Then the next step is ordering and installing the new hardware. If there is any requirement of new hardware, then what is the order of that hardware, and the installation of that hardware is done. Developing a operating procedure for the computer center staff. If there is a staff which handles the softwares, then the develop operating procedure, how to handle that software, that procedure is developed. Then establishing how to maintain a software, इसके लिए भी procedure develop होता है, and the complete documentation of software is maintained. Okay, so these are the basic steps maintained in implementation phase. Now the next phase is a testing phase. Testing phase is not actually exactly occurring after the implementation phase. In implementation, at the time of implementation, testing is performed side by. This means testing phase occurs only after implementation phase is not correct. Testing is done at the time of coding also. Okay, the earlier errors are detected in testing phase. The errors are detected, and the detected errors are corrected. Testing phase verify and validate the code. Okay. What is exactly done in testing phase? The validation, correcting, identifying errors and correcting errors means verification and validations of code is done in testing phase. Okay. Then after that, there is a maintenance phase. In maintenance phase, whatever the software developed is deployed at the customer side, and after deployment, if there is any problem occur at the client side, that client side problems are maintained by the analyst or software developer. Okay, maintenance phase. Actually, maintenance phase is related to all these activities which are necessary to keep the software up and running after it is delivered to the customer. Okay, so basically there is a 5 steps in every software development. First phase is a requirement phase. In requirement phase, what is exact problem, what are the exact requirement of client, what is the need of system, is that system is feasible, what is the exact requirement of that software. All these are performed in requirement phase. Okay, after collecting requirements in requirement phase, the next phase is a design phase. In design phase, the design, whatever the information or whatever the requirements are collected in first phase, that all requirements are documented in design phase, or a proper model is developed in design phase. Okay, logical model is translated into physical model. What are the output of the system, what is input goes to the system, what files are maintained in this system, what exactly processing done on in that system. All these decisions or all the model of this is performed in design phase. Okay, now the next is a implementation phase. Implementation phase may writing, testing, debugging, converting old system to the new system, how to handle that software, and what exactly new softwares are, sorry, if there is new hardware requirement, then all these are implementation done in implementation phase. Okay, and the last one is a next phase is a testing phase. In testing phase, there is a validation, correct, finding the errors and correcting the errors means verification and validations are performed in testing phase. In maintenance phase, when the actual software is developed and that is deployed at the customer side, then whatever the activities performed by the analyst and developer, this phase is known as a maintenance phase. So these are the basic phases which is involved in every software development. Okay, now there is a different types of software. Okay, the first type of software is a system software. Okay, what is mean by system software? System software processes complex information structure which helps or which assists the computer hardware part to work or to interact with the users. These softwares are known as a system softwares. Means in simple language, जो भी softwares हार्डवेयर और यूजर इनको इंटरैक्ट करने के लिए हेल्प करते हैं, उनको हम सिस्टम सॉफ्टवेयर बोलते हैं. ओके, so for examples of system softwares are compilers, editors are the examples of system softwares. Okay, then the next type of software is a real time software. Okay, what is mean by real time software? Software that monitors, analyze and controls the real world events as they occur is called a real time softwares. Okay, okay, Example of these softwares are temperature control software or nuclear reactor. These are the example of real-time softwares. Okay. Now the next type of software is a business software. All applications softwares like billing, payroll, inventory. These are the examples of business software. These business softwares are designed as per the client's requirement, okay, or a customer's requirement. Based on customer's requirement. Okay, these applications or these softwares help in business operation and management and decision making. Now, the next type is a engineering and scientific software. Engineering and scientific software means computer aided design, system simulation, other interactive application have begun to take on real time and system software characteristics. Okay, embedded software. Embedded next type is a embedded software. एम्बेडेड मीन्स जो भी सॉफ्टवेयर हार्डवेयर के साथ इनबिल्ट होते हैं उनको हम एम्बेडेड सॉफ्टवेयर बोलते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल वॉशिंग मशीन है, माइक्रोवेव है, ओवन है, और ये सब जो एग्जांपल्स है वो है एम्बेडेड सॉफ्टवेयर. ओके, देन पर्सनल कंप्यूटर सॉफ्टवेयर. पर्सनल कंप्यूटर द पर्सनल कंप्यूटर सॉफ्टवेयर MS Office is a example. This MS Office we use for writing, typing purpose. So this is a personal computer software. Okay. Next type is a artificial intelligence software. Artificial intelligence software makes use of non-numerical algorithms to solve complex problems. Okay, so example of this artificial intelligence software is a robot. Okay, so these are the some types of software application. First one is a system software, real-time software, business software, engineering and scientific software, embedded software, personal computer software, and artificial intelligence softwares. So these are the basic type of these are the some types of software applications. Okay, now the next part is a software models or software life cycles. Okay, software sequential SDLC is software development life cycle. In software development life cycle, there is a different phases which involve in every software development. This is also known as a classical life cycle model or a linear sequential model or a waterfall model. Why it is called a linear sequential model? Because in this linear sequential model, or we can say that in this waterfall model, all the phases which is involved in software development are performed linearly or sequentially, one after the another. Okay, first phase is a analysis phase. In analysis phase, detailed study of operations performed by the system is done, and the relationship within and outside the systems are performed. Okay. After that, there is a design phase. After completing analysis phase, there is a design phase. In design phase, actually the whatever the paper pencil or documentation is performed in design phase, whatever the requirements are collected in analysis phase, or whatever the requirement is analyzed in analysis phase, that all requirements are documented by in design phase. Okay, after completing the design phase, there is a coding phase. In coding phase, there is exact what is the front end back end use, what language is suitable for coding. Then actual the program writing section is performed in this coding part. Okay. After coding, there is a testing. In testing, error correct detection and correction is performed. And last phase is a implementation, maintenance phase or deployment phase. In deployment phase, whatever the software or whatever the model is developed, that developed model is deployed at the client side. So this model is known as a classical life cycle model, linear or linear sequential model, or waterfall model. This there is some advantage of this waterfall model or linear sequential model and some disadvantage. Then what is the advantage? It is simple and easy to use, easy to manage due to it is easy to manage due to rigidity of the model. Each phase has a specific deliverable and review process. Phases are processed and completed one at a time, work well for smaller projects. Means this model is suitable for smaller projects. But this model have some disadvantages also, and that disadvantages are adjusting scope during the life cycle can kill a project. No working software is produced until last phase is completed. Means after deployment phase, there is a working model. So this is the major disadvantage of this waterfall model. Then high amount of risk and uncertainty is in waterfall model. Poor model for complex. When we build a large model or software, this waterfall model is not suitable to build a large or complex systems. So this is the disadvantages of waterfall model. Now the next model is a prototyping model. In prototyping model, prototyping is the process that enables the developer to create a working model of an information system application. First, in prototyping model, whatever the software or whatever the requirement of client, that requirement is converted into a working model, and that working model is deployed at the customer side first. The feedback of that model is taken from the customer, and after feedback there is actual working done. Means requirement gathering and refinement is performed. After requirement gathering and refinement, there is a quick designing. Quick designing means actual small model of that system is built, and that small model is deployed at the customer side and taking the feedback from the customer, and from after customer's feedback, the building customer evaluation of prototype is performed, and after customers feedback or on that prototype, the review is taken, and then again repeat the all stages from requirement gathering and refinement. मीन्स सबसे पहले रिक्वायरमेंट गैदरिंग होता है, उस रिक्वायरमेंट्स का रिफाइनमेंट होता है, उसके बाद उसका क्विक मॉडल क्विक डिजाइनिंग किया जाता है, उसका प्रोटोटाइप क्रिएट किया जाता है, मीन्स स्मॉल मॉडल क्रिएट किया जाता है, वही मॉडल कस्टमर के साइड पे अपलोड किया जाता है, कस्टमर से जो भी फीडबैक आता है उसी फीडबैक को रिव्यू किया जाता है, और वापस फिर से रिक्वायरमेंट गैदरिंग, रिफाइनमेंट, अगेन मॉडलिंग, एंड अगेन deployment at the customer side, and again review on that prototype. These phases is continuously performed on prototyping model. The benefits of the prototyping model is it saves the time in system development, encourage the communication between the developer and user, missing user services may be detected quickly. Prototyping helps to build the system with user satisfaction and avoid wrong system delivery. Okay. Difficult to use or confusing user services may be identified and refined. Okay. So this is the advantages of prototyping model. Okay. Now the next model is a iterative model. इटरेटिव मॉडल में जो भी SDLC मीन्स सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलपमेंट लाइफ साइकिल में जो भी बेसिक फेजेस है फ्रॉम एनालिसिस डिजाइनिंग कोडिंग टेस्टिंग एंड मेंटेनेंस all these phases are performed iteratively means repeatedly. First version analysis is performed, after that designing, after that coding, after that testing and implementation. This is the first version. After deploying that first version at the customer side, reviews of the customer is taken into consideration, and the next iteration or next version of same model is performed by performing same steps by analyzing for designing, coding, testing, and deployment. Okay. So iterative means repetitions. Repeatedly, the versions are created by performing the same phases: analysis, design, coding, and testing. Okay. The iteration involves redesign and implementation of tasks from project control list and the analysis of current version of the system. Okay. So this is the iterative model. Look at here. In iterative model, the versions are created. Business modeling: I1, E1, E2, C1, C2, C3, C4, T1, T2. So all these phases, analysis, design, coding, testing is performed iteratively. Okay. What is the advantage of iterative model? It generates working software quickly. Next advantage is it is a more flexible and less costly, easier to test and debug during smaller iteration, easier to deal with risk because risk parts are identified and handled during its iterations. Okay, so this is the advantages of iterative model, and disadvantages is each phase of iteration is rigid and do not overlap each other. Okay, and next problem or next disadvantage is a problem may arise pertaining to system architecture because not all requirements are collected upfront for the entire software life cycle. Okay, so this is the advantages and disadvantages of iterative model. Now the next model is a spiral model. This spiral model is also called as a process model. The spiral model of software process was originally proposed or developed by Boehm in 1988. Okay, the spiral model is useful in the following situation: when development of project starts, It may possible that work may be stopped due to any reason. If such situation arises, what step must be taken to solve such problem should be known. And the second situation is which path should be followed for particular procedure must be known in advance to develop team. Because of this also work will not be stopped in middle. Means अगर प्रोजेक्ट स्टार्ट किया और बीच में कुछ भी प्रॉब्लम आया तो उस प्रॉब्लम को कैसे हैंडल करना है ये स्पाइरल मॉडल में इजीली हैंडल होता है और इस सिचुएशन को सॉल्व करने के लिए स्पाइरल मॉडल इजी है. ओके, so major activities performed in spiral model is first activity is a planning. It determines the objective, alternatives and constraint of the particular product. Risk analysis. Risk analysis is an important factor in spiral model. In risk analysis, the alternatives are evaluated and potential risk areas are identified. Means whatever the risk is there is identified and what is the solution given to that risk is evaluated. Okay. Now the next is a engineering. In engineering, activities like simulation and prototyping is performed. The development and verification of the product is performed. Means actually development and the testing or the verification whether that code is correct or not is performed in engineering phase. Okay, and the next is a customer evaluation phase. In customer evaluation phase, the engineering work and make suggestion and modification. कस्टमर इवैल्यूएशन में क्या होता है कि जो भी कंस्ट्रक्शन किया है सॉफ्टवेयर का उसको कस्टमर साइड को डिप्लॉय करके उन वो कस्टमर उसको इवैल्यूएट करता है और वो सजेस्ट करता है एनी मॉडिफिकेशन उस प्रोडक्ट में करना है या नहीं. सो दिस इज द स्पाइरल मॉडल. फर्स्ट फेज इन स्पाइरल मॉडल इज प्लानिंग, रिस्क एनालिसिस, engineering, customer evaluation. Okay, so this is the major steps performed in spiral model. So this is the major models which is used in every software development process. First is a waterfall model, which is also known as a linear model. Next is a iterative model, prototyping model, spiral model. Okay. So overall in this chapter, we learn what is the software engineering, why it is important, which phases involved in software development, and which models, how many types of softwares are there, and different types of software development life cycle. Okay, so today we stop here and continue in next lecture.